Control 1 to get rid of that window. Here we have a series of lines, much like this one up here, which we want to join into one polyline. Now you can join lines together to create polylines, and then you can explode them from polylines back to lines again. So what we need to do is type in Polyline Edit, or PE, pick on the first object, and what it's telling me is this isn't a polyline. Do I want to turn it into one? And by default in the triangular brackets it's got a Y for yes, so I'll just press enter to accept that. Now it's asking me what do I want to do. Okay, I want to join it, so J for join, enter. And then it's saying select the object. So we select the first object, and then we can either select with a crossing window or individually to get all of the other objects. I suppose now's a good time just to talk about selecting objects. If so far I've been clicking on objects individually, which can become quite tedious, there's two other basic ways of selecting objects in Autocad. One is with the crossing window, which is starting from the right hand corner and moving up to the left either way, and you'll see it's a green rectangle or green marquee with a red outline, and that will select objects that the marquee crosses over. If I go the other way, starting from the left and moving to the right, it's a blue rectangle with a red solid line, and it will only select objects that are entirely within that marquee. So you see two lines that it's crossing, it won't select those. There are other ways of selecting objects, but we'll look at that again in another tutorial. That's the filter and the quick select methods. So back to our polyline edit command, PE, select the first object. Now we've already converted it to a polyline, so we don't have to do that again. We're now going to J for join, and we're going to just select all of the objects with a crossing window, enter, and it's telling me that 3 segments have been added to the polyline. Now I'm still in the middle of the command here, so to get out of that command I have to press escape, and I would always recommend pressing escape twice, because many of the commands in AutoCAD have more than one layer. If you only press escape once, you'll only come up a layer in that command rather than exit out of it altogether. The general rule is wait till you see the word command there, then you know you're ready to start another command. The width, changing the width of a polyline, so again PE, polyline edit. The option is W down here, width, and specify a new width for all of the segments, let's say 50 millimeters, and then it gives me a nice fat line to work with, good for highlighting things. Okay, edit vertex. This is one of these commands where you go deeper and deeper into the AutoCAD command. So polyline edit, enter, select the line, and it's E for edit vertex, and we've gone down another level with a next, previous, break, insert, move, regen, straighten, tangent, width, and exit. So what I want to do is, by default it's got an N down here for next, so I'll just press enter and it'll jump to the next vertex. If I typed in P, it would go back to the previous one. So N for next. What I want to do now is break the polyline at this point, so B for break, and then I have to say G for go. Now what that should have done is, I'll just exit twice, it should have broken that segment off the polyline, which it has done. So again, let's do the rest of the command, polyline edit, click on the rest of the polyline, edit vertex, so E, and then N for next. I want to insert, or let's go to the next point up here, I want to insert a vertex at point 1. So I for insert, and it gives me this floating point which I can then click on there, and it's inserted a vertex. Now this is important in versions previous to 2011 and 2012, where you didn't have this grip that you could hover over and add a vertex. I'll demonstrate that in a minute in 2011-2012. So N for next, and this time I want to move a vertice, so M for move, and I can move it to the point. Now, the next one, regen, is a little bit difficult to demonstrate because what happens when you start zooming in and out of AutoCAD, these arcs become visually corrupt and they start to facet. The R for regen will just regenerate a polyline, so it refreshes the screen essentially. The next option is straighten. Now, what this will do is it'll take any arc out, and it doesn't. I'll illustrate this a couple of ways. So first of all, let's just type in S for straighten. Go to the next point and go, and that'll remove that arc from the segment. The next option is tangent. Tangent's a bit of a funny one. It does tend to crash AutoCAD occasionally. What it's used for is changing the tangential direction of the vertice for when you generate splines like this. Not something I would get too tied up with. In the 18 years that I've been using AutoCAD, I've never had to use it. The next one is width, so let's go to the next segment, so N and enter, and W for width, and it's asking me to specify the starting width for the next segment, which is 50 millimeters. Okay, and you can see it's just made one end fat, and it's now saying specify the ending width for the next vertice, and by default it'll put 50 millimeters in. We just have to enter to accept that, and then if we escape twice, we're out of the command. Now, just a couple of other things with the straighten command, the straighten part. If I've got a series of polylines, and this is all polylines, if I do polyline edit, so escape, polyline edit, PE, pick on the polyline, edit vertice, go to the next vertice, straighten, and then S for straighten, and then it's going next, 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 and next, and then go. It'll straighten out all of those lines in between. There are quicker ways of doing it, but it's interesting to see how it works. For instance, if I did this, we can use grips. I was talking to you about adding arcs within grips, so we can convert to arc, or in this middle grip we can add a vertex. And if we want to remove a vertex, it's sometimes just easier to pick it up and drop it on top of another vertex, and it'll disappear. Hover over this, convert to line, and drop that vertex over there, and we're back to where we were. So grips are very useful, which again we'll talk about grips a little bit later on in another tutorial. The polyline edit fit command. This is the original polyline that we're looking at, and we generated this curve out of it. So let me just move this out the way. So polyline edit, pick on the polyline on any of the segments, and the command is F for fit, and it creates this lovely curve. If we don't want it to be like that, we want to revert it back to its original shape, we can D for decurve. So P edit, select on the polyline, D for decurve, and it takes it back to its original shape. I'm just going to undo that, and undo again, undo again, undo again, to take it back to the original position. So there's polyline edit fit, and there's also spline. Now, fit is called fit because each of the points, each of the vertices, still maintain their position and the curve is fitted between them. With spline, if I highlight the grips, you can see the grips are still on each of the vertices of the original position, but the line is tangential to those grips. So to bring up to convert a polyline to a spline, it's P edit, enter, select the polyline, and then S for spline. And you can see it's just dropped over the top there, so if I move the green one, you can see the one underneath. Now notice what's happened here. The dashed line isn't dashed all the way around. Now this is where the polyline edit line type command is very useful. You'll find if you've made a line dash and it's following a series or a path or something, or going around corners, sometimes the dashes won't be uniform. To make them uniform, sorry, escape twice, polyline edit, enter, pick on the line, type in L for line type, and then this is one of the commands where you can't just use the first letter because they both begin with O. We need to type on or off. So let's type on, and you can see now that there's a contiguous dashed line going all the way around it. And I think that's about it. The only other thing is reversing the direction of a polyline, and this is useful if you're using the measure command or the divide command to copy an object along it and using it as a path, because it'll either start from one end. All you're doing is saying this is the beginning of the polyline. I'm reversing the polyline, so this will become the beginning. So for instance, polyline edit, enter, reverse, reverse. You can't see anything happen, but what it's done is it's flipped the beginning from here to here, or vice versa. So that's polylines.